Present.
Johnson,
Here.
Sally.
Absent.
Okay, thank you. Coffee,
Present. Thank you. Okay. First on mine on the agenda is the fiscal year 2021 budget. Sherry? Oh, you're fine. We're social distancing properly, and would you turn on the mics so that everyone can hear and try to speak as clearly as you can?
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
very much. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, before you is a two-page summary, actually three-page, I take that back. Summary sheet of the proposed 2021 budget. On the very first page, I'm proposing a 2% increase on the general fund levy, and underneath it, there are a bunch of other levies that are special levies. One is the VITA levy that at Tuesday's meeting, at the second hearing of it, you approved the $70,686. The next special levy is P&H tax abatement, and that is in its, I want to say 16th year out of a 20-year 100% tax abatement. So we're asking for $142,679 from their taxes to pay the $2 million bond that we had given them. For economic development, I make that clear. Debt levy, miners 2020B bond. This is roughly to, we have no idea where the sales tax are going, but from what it appears, it's coming along really good. In fact, last month, which is, we got that in September, it would be August, over $200,000 in sales tax just for that month. We are only projecting like 125. So we haven't even hit the holidays yet, so, you know.
We're
Well,
hopeful.
hopefully we're on track.
We're on track. Thank you.
And so this is just an added precaution there to put that 163 to help with the first initial interest and then the bond payment for 2021. Next one would be our debt levy service, $878,392. So overall, the proposed levy is about a 3.62% increase. The main part of that would be the general fund levy of 2%. Now, what we need to get into the county by September 30th is our proposed levy. We can set the levy, we can go down, we just can't go up. So, hopefully, I'm gonna give you guys some good news before we hit the bad, okay? And that is, the health insurance came in at a 2.5% increase for the Northeast service. PEEP is going, they told me I should think very conservatively, but being the person I am, I figured a 7% increase. They're thinking lower, but I don't have that data until October. So, go ahead.
Question on the PEEP. And when the presentation was given, they showed the projected increase is a heck of a lot smaller than that. You know, and that is of concern to me about how health insurance works and the initial proposal that, hey, and it was for us to save money. We made a decision which we thought was prudent and fiscally responsible. But now we see these increases starting to come even from PEEP. And I don't understand, you know, when you look at the average over the last 5 or 7 or 8 years, now all of a sudden it's a 7% increase. So could you have any idea?
No, I want to clarify that. That's Sherry's.
Sherry budgeted 7.
Proposed. I budgeted
We haven't got the
7%.
PEEP numbers yet.
Oh, they.
I won't
has-
get it till
Has
October.
PEEP made a decision?
They
Oh,
won't until
They
November.
have not.
No, and they just told me I'm a little high.
Meeting?
So I know I've got a little bit of a cushion there.
So Sherry's being overly cautious and putting in a 7% increase.
Okay, thank you.
Realize a 7% increase is still lower than Northeast Service Corps
Yes.
premiums.
Then the premiums.
Right,
That
and-
would still be lower than what the premiums will be for Northeast. And when I did this proposal, it was back at the hit of COVID. I had no idea what COVID was going to do to health insurance. We still don't know.
So when we get the information from PEEP, we'll make the adjustments based upon that. And do you anticipate when that information from PEEP may come to?
Yes, end of October, first part of November,
Okay, thank you.
but too late for this preliminary budget to get
Yeah,
in.
well, we can make the adjustment if we have to later on down the road. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Sherry, on the percentage of those employees on PEEP versus that stayed with the Northeast Service Co-op, should we maybe have a meeting on that for the insurance committee to kind of review and go over? Because when was the contract up for PEEP?
Contract ends December 31st, so now this will be.
So we would
for-
need to renegotiate, well, probably October, November.
And the main employees that you'd be negotiating with are all in ASME.
All ask me. Okay, all right, thanks.
And the ASME contract expires 31st of this year, so it's, thank you. Any other counselor? Counselor Beyondich, any questions so far?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sherry?
Thank you. Other revenues, we're going to go right on down, LGA, actually increased by about 200,000. That was nice. Taconite aid did go down a little bit. Excuse me. And I did get confirmation from Bob Wagstrom that it is going to be roughly that we budgeted. Fire and state aids, the only thing that will increase is the SRO that I didn't put in there. It's my understanding now the agreement is $32,781. Roughly $1,000 more.
What was that again, Sherry?
The SRO with the school district
Yeah.
increased.
We proposed an increase for this year. The school hasn't gotten back to
Oh,
us if they
sorry.
accepted it yet or not.
What's the number?
781,
781,
32,781.
Thank you.
Para has not changed for Coon's age here. But as you can go through, is there any questions? Pretty much the same. We did get federal, state, IRRB grants we're anticipating for the miners and a few other projects. Help me out here, Bert, I don't know who the other. And then the sales tax, that's very conservative, that's 217's numbers. Transfer in from general fund, it would be from public utilities, and we're hoping, yeah, grants, for the $110,000. That is on the second page, and that is for the Amarillo relighting program, and that is it's a lease through Huntington Bank. That will be the annual payment of $110,000. Normally, we budget $50,000 already for street lighting. And since they replaced all the street lighting and upgraded, not only did they say we should see utility costs in all our departments going down, but the public utilities is giving us $60,000 for how many years? 13 years? So that will cover the two, much together, will make our payments. So, then we did increase our admin fee on our enterprises. For many years, 20-some years, it's been $160,000. Rich and Wendy and myself. So there's two enterprises that we decided to put that overhead administrative fee into the general fund to show it now. The reason is, it's easier for Standard & Poor's when they're rating us to be able to see that, yeah, the enterprises are actually helping the city's general fund out. And we're not just doing a transfer from our savings. The next one is money we will have to transfer from our investments or reserves or somehow decrease our expenses by that amount to balance a zero budget.
Which is $382,185.
No, yeah, this is my idea now. You ready? We're getting the 5.4 million in. Of that 5.4 million, we have to pay back our investments. We had to pay back a portion to public utilities, and 900,000 is supposed to go back to the general fund because we borrowed that to make that US bank loan. I'm suggesting that we put 400 of that 900 and the other 500,000 go back into investments. And that's how I'd like to see it, and if we could do that, and that's obviously council approval when we get there, but that would show S&P that we're not living on borrowed money. That, yeah, we actually can move some of that into investments.
And unless the legislation makes some dramatic change in the law,
It's
we still
law.
anticipate, and because it's city law, the allocation of that $5.4 million out of a one-time payment from the local government and aid account, which is separate from what we get now, will come in August of 2021.
Correct.
Thank you.
Sherry, I got a quick question for you. So once we get the 5.4 back and with the splitting that you're going to do, does that fall with the parameters for a Gatsby requirement of 40% or more?
It'll be more.
It'll
Yeah,
be more.
it'll actually be
then.
more.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Okay, going on down to special revenue, tennis for all, we're just keeping it the same as this year. I haven't seen any big jump, and of course, COVID has kind of restricted some of our revenue intake. Ambulance, we did lower. I still think that's a little high, but we did bring it down. And then the enterprise funds, and you'll see that the hospital is off of there.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Maya, go ahead.
Charge.
Counselor Beyondich?
Thank you. Under the enterprise funds, how is the golf course and the restaurant doing so far this year?
Did you want me to answer that?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sherry,
That's
please, would you answer Counselor Beyondic's question?
Counselor Beyondich, I did check with Wendy actually yesterday. She has not entered all of the receipts in for August. But as soon as I get that, I will let you know. It looks like they're making their lease payments. But right now it's in a bit of a deficit, but then
The restaurant.
yeah, the restaurant, but we don't have some of the lease payments in, and she said that she hasn't closed out August yet. Oh, yeah, golf course is good.
Sherry, may I ask another question?
Just one quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maya, does that answer your question, Counselor Beyondich? Yeah, please, let's finish the rest of Counselor Beyondich's question with respect to the golf course, and then we'll go to Counselor Bearable. Go ahead, Sherry.
You bring up a good thing, and that's another good news. Good news is I budgeted for 2020, this year, a deficit of 127,000. We are already in September, and the golf course is 25,000 to the black. For the first time ever. I don't want to jinx us, but if he doesn't do any major spending, he should actually have a profit this year, which gives me chills. So,
Yeah, well, we've had a banner year with respect to rounds of golf being played.
Yeah.
A small decrease looking at numbers the other day in the annual permits or what do you call them?
Season pass.
The season passes, but that's expected from COVID. So as a result, we are turning the corner here. So that's it's good news. And even the golf course pro shop has a minimum amount of product to sell, which attracts people in to play golf as well. So that's encouraging, Sherry. Thank you.
It's been great.
Counselor Beyondich, anything else on that?
No, I think that is wonderful news, and maybe perhaps that incentive helps snap things around, and we will continue to see good progress there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Bearable?
Sherry, I'm looking at one other item, the sewer fund revenue. Why is it the same as last year since we increased the amount of sewer rates? Shouldn't that be a little bit more up for revenue coming in?
You know what,
As we institute.
and I apologize, it might be me. There is a little more, you're right, there is a little more rate increase in my oversight on that one.
Yeah, okay. So
Because I was concentrating on the solid waste, the garbage fees.
Yeah,
And more exciting news is that I actually budgeted for next year, two rigs out of there. One for the recycling truck that needs to be totally replaced, and then there's a garbage truck.
okay, then I'm
And
satisfied.
it still will land in their back.
Thank you.
It's a
That's all I-
good,
That's all I care about.
this has been a good, I'm looking forward to this meeting, I want you to know.
Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Sherry, where in here do we put the VITA funds? Not the levy, but like the 500,000 from last year, or for 2020? And then this year, we so far have gotten the 200,000 from the IRRB, 50,000 from the foundation, and then I would assume VITA would be contributing to that. How do you break that down into this budget?
Isn't in this budget, go ahead. It's, see, I live in 3 years. I live in the past, I live in the present, and I live into the future. So what you're talking about is the now, the 2020. This is for 21. So that's an enterprise, the VITA, they have their own checking account. So that's separate.
But that leads me to my question, because last night when we did the schedule of the bills, that was paid to Cane Lakes out of that schedule of bills, which VITA should have then, in my opinion, have technically written that check with the two signatories.
That was actually a demo grant. We were the fiscal agent for a demo grant.
That was
for
a
them.
demo grant.
Yep.
Okay,
So that, and they have one more payment left on that demo grant that you'll see. They had a $50,000 demo grant that we were fiscal agents for.
okay.
So when we do the reimbursement for them, the money comes in and then.
So
we
I
do a
wasn't
check to them.
understanding the
Yeah, Sherry.
payment
yeah.
portion of that last
They
night.
have multiple grants. They're unusual.
But then how does VITA's budget ever come into play with the city's budget so we can understand
Well,
how much actual dollars are in the pot?
and that's a good question. You should be getting monthly statements, and I assume the VITA, at the VITA board does. But we can give that to the whole council too.
But that's never been a part of the budget, even though we're allocating the 70,000 of
Is
the,
on the second page, the 70,000,
Yeah.
but not the whole VITA budget. Just,
okay.
this is the expenses now against the revenue.
So the VITA budget has always been separate in terms of the authority itself.
Yes.
Okay.
There's the storefront, that's still here in our little pot, but that's a special fund. It's not part of the 101 general fund.
Right.
A little confusing, but I think when you see the financial reports every month, you'll be able to see the codes and where this money is.
Okay. And are those
actually has done
included
a
with
good
the
job.
VITA packets?
Yes.
Yes.
We just started doing that in the last few months.
Okay.
So I'll get that to you.
I
I
appreciate
was
that.
waiting for Wendy to do the August before I
Okay.
sent it out. Finally, the one I had doesn't have August payments in there. It only has through July.
Just because there's a lot of dollars in there now that I'd like to kind of
Oh, really?
just
There's a
kind
lot
of
of dollars
watch
in there.
what
And, you know, and
the
we've
plan
had,
is.
had some really good, like the Coates Hotel, now it's a Quality, and, I mean, he paid off his loan early.
Right. There's been some
So-
great success stories too. So thanks so much for clarifying that, Sherry.
Thank you. Counselor Johnson?
My question goes back to the golf course. I apologize.
Hang on.
Well, I don't know if it's numbers.
Oh.
My understanding is there's been less tournaments at the golf course this summer. Is that reflect that more people are paying for individual rounds as opposed to large quantities of is discounted golf? Is there any correlation or connection there?
You know, that's a good question, and looking on when I pulled this, it was in August when I pulled the, just the monthly budget report, and it gives me year-to-date. Year-to-date, in August, we had already met almost 90% of what we budgeted, which was $146,000 just so far in golf fees. The other increase that we seen was cart rentals.
And one of
The pro shop sales, you're right, are actually doing pretty good.
As far as the cart rentals go, just if I may, thank you. The reason that the cart rentals are higher is because of COVID. The requirement is that unless you're a family member, you have to ride separate carts. So therefore, you have to pay a separate fee. So that's what people, that's the perception. But in essence, what their golf course is charging, they're not charging a full cart fee for each individual. It's a half a cart fee. So it's likely would be right in together. So COVID, as far as making individuals ride separately, didn't affect the cart rentals themselves. Just the fact that the rounds of golf were up, therefore the cart rentals are up. I'm sorry, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess I would just, if we can get that from Brian or from Mr. Fingerhus, is the lack of fundraisers and us, is there any correlation between individual rounds of golf versus here's a chunk of people playing golf? Because I know that when we've negotiated there's some negotiation that goes on when you're holding a large event. So I'd just be curious about if maybe this is a better business model, not hosting or hosting. I'm not a golfer, so I don't want to project what we should do. I'm just curious about the correlation.
And if I can just add to it, I have not been really eyeballing every line item on the revenue, but I have been watching those daily receipts come in, and it's exciting to see 3,000, 1,000. There has not been one day that was under $1,000. So I'm just like, this is cool. I don't care where they're getting the money from. Okay, I gotta be careful.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Sherry, thank you.
Is there any other questions on the enterprise system, the enterprise funds? I did put in the increased projected revenue that we should get for the solid waste, so that really did help. That was a shot in the arm. And I'm really appreciative that Dana Hiltonen runs the Washington HRA over there the way she does. So
What does the realtor say on the national TV? Sell.
Oh, I'm
Okay, thank you. I digress.
okay. So anyway, on the second page is the expenses. Now, I do want to let you know that this has been revised since the first time you've seen the budget, and that is, I did put that extra mechanic in there, so it cost us roughly $100,000 more. Did take out, what was, I want to say it was 15,000, yeah, the music. That's got to come out of there, so that should be off. We struck it out, but I didn't take it out of the, I know, 15,000.
So we're striking for 2021,
Yeah,
the city
music,
band
yeah.
as well?
Striking them, using the money from this year for them for next.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Didn't pay them this year because they didn't.
Very good, yep.
Able to meet.
Sure.
Hopefully COVID is a memory next year and they can meet again.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I jumped too far down, but up at the top is the general government. Does anybody have any questions on that? Once again, I told you I did put in the labor benefit column, and in there is the little more increase on the medical insurance, because I have no clue yet what PEEP is gonna be, although they did tell me to be conservative, but I didn't. I did adjust, go through and redo all the budget and adjust it with the proper numbers for the Northeast Service Health Insurance. And we just got, go ahead.
I do have a question on the local government, if I may. You're looking at the city attorneys, you got a budget of $105,850, right?
Right.
So just for the clarification of purposes, we still have a city attorney budget because we pay retiree benefits to the retired city attorney. Is that the labor and benefits of $1,308 or $51,383?
No.
What is that?
The labor and benefits would be a portion of Chris's wages go
Thank
get
you.
appropriated 50% there, and it gets divvied up between,
Yeah, I should have known that. I thank you, appreciate it.
and actually, the attorney fees for Brian is in here, in the operating, the 105.
Right.
And the retiree insurance, good news there, is anybody who our former attorney is, that is on medical, the Medicare supplemental, it actually went down, and the senior gold went up only like $2.50, so it's been steady. So I can hardly wait to get the retiree letters out and let them know. It's good news.
Thank you.
Moving on down to police, you'll see there's leases in there under the other, and that would be for their squads, and actually, that's for a new squad too, correct? Because we were able to, because of the fire over here, we were able to replace those 2 squads and then do a lease for another one. So all pretty reasonable.
And then one more question on the police department budget, labor and benefits. Is that for the current active employees, or does that include others?
That includes others.
Thank you.
In fact, hang on here, I'll
Right.
pull that up.
I don't need to know that unless somebody else does. I just wanted the clarification of it, that's all. Thank you.
I have a question, if I may.
I'm sorry, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. Sherry, then where is the Park and Rec department? Is it under Culture and Recreation where the
Yes,
little?
it is.
Where the little punch hole is?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I see that now.
So then at the last time we had talked about the budget, did we put any MEC coordinator position dollars into that Park and Rec?
There we go.
Yep.
I want to go to this here. Roughly, the MEC event coordinator should be financed by the MEC events and revenues brought in. And we have a really exciting presentation after this to show you what we have gotten in for proposals. So,
But does that need to be included in the 2021
no, I
budget?
would put that under the MEC.
Because
expense,
that's going to
yeah.
operate on its own.
Yeah, it should.
Okay. And then maybe I'm going down too far, but under miscellaneous, under the Teen Lyric Center improvements, does that mean we're foregoing that? It's in the red 10,000?
No, that, if you go way over to the total line, the very last column, the 10,000 is in there. And that is because we've been doing this for the last 3 years. You recall that they came to us with multiple things, like boiler needed to be replaced, this, that, and so we've been kind of like just spreading this over.
And is that building being utilized at all?
Yes, they actually this Saturday are going to introduce their new youth arts coordinators, what they call them, at their open house. They're COVIDly safely trying to
Bring it back.
the kids back. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you know, while we're in this section, can we jump down to the Evelyn, Virginia Airport? I know there was a proposal.
They do. We haven't received it officially. They have a request for $5,500 of capital that they want to add into the budget. It would have to be approved by both Virginia and Evelyn.
From each, five,
5,500.
from each, above and beyond the 22,000 budget
Correct.
item? Okay, thank you.
Right now, I only did the 22,000.
Right.
You want to finish off the miscellaneous, and then we'll just jump back up, or do you?
Just go back up where we were before, and then when we get back down there may be some more questions.
Okay, and hopefully our parking monitor will, this person has their physical next week, the 25th? It's the 25th? Next week. So hopefully after that, we can get started. Yes. And actually, that account was doing quite healthy. Dan Wolf did a really, really amazing job. The fire department, this is all expenses. You'll see that we pay $133,313 out in retiree insurance. Most of those people are on the VIBA plan because they're under 65. And some will still be on that plan until they pass on, because if they're under the old school where they didn't pay in to Medicare,
There were a few of those left.
yeah. So you probably won't see that number shrink for a little while yet. Animal control, I'm asking that we just maintain this. I think they may be coming for an increase. Okay, so I'm just, and that was based off their agreement, so. Down in the streets, pretty much right on. Ice and snow, we're right on with budget so far. So I pretty much kept it where we're at. Trucks and equipment, sweeper and loader lease, this is already in there. Then you'll see a capital, $170,000. I know Ed came to you folks shortly before here, was it last month? And we're actually going to be under the 170,000, so that's a good thing. And he'll still get, I shouldn't say he's going to be gone here in October, but the Public Works will get their vehicles that they need, and it'll be much less than what we anticipated, so. Street lighting, here's where I put the Amariso lease, Huntington. It's 108, and we budgeted about 110 in revenue to meet that payment. We're hoping citywide in all our departments to see our utilities go down with better lighting and better fixtures. Traffic signals, that's where I kept it. Public Works garage. And then the Public Works and Equipment Maintenance Shop. This is where the added mechanic is. And we did not get any internal applicants, so we're going external. Really? Already? Oh, cool. Public Works Office. This is where the Public Works Director and the, I hate to use names, but Administrative Assistant Mary Rozier, their salaries. And then the city engineer, I still kept that in because,
The TAD position?
on this one, yeah.
Right, very good, thank you.
Title of the office is something we'll have to determine. If it's not going to be an engineering office, what are we going to call that department?
Sure,
But for his namesake, for the budget, she kept it the same.
thank you.
And then moving on down to culture, Senior Citizen Center, it's bare minimum maintenance in there. Youth Center, I mentioned that.
Question on the Senior Citizen Center. The request for the pocket park to be fixed up, that has nothing to do with the senior center. That will be in the park budget for 2021.
Correct.
Thank you.
This is, yeah, what I've got budgeted in here is just
Right.
the bare operating.
Thank you.
Keep the lights on.
Okay, thank you.
Then jumping down to greenhouse renovations. I did take that and put that $10,000, if you see it's over in capital under the yellow column. It's actually included in the recreation budget. And we just every year, once again, just budget an extra 10,000 because we don't know what's gonna happen. Recreation Department, the additional 15,000 in that capital is a basketball court in Fairview.
Counselor Johnson?
And that is the result of an individual wanting to build and not build, and we're maybe looking for grants for that. So there's no plan at this point to actually build a basketball court in, okay. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Next
Sherry?
one. And right where the little hole is the park department.
Hopefully, there's not a hole in their budget.
No,
Okay.
I think Brian is doing an awesome job.
Yeah, thank you.
Not funny, this is. Library, that's fully staffed, except for 2 casuals right now. Yeah. Down to the miscellaneous, the Quad Cities, that's really the Rock. Up there in Evelyn, that's our portion, and I just want you to know that has not changed, thankfully, in about, I'd say 8 years. It's been the same.
And I sit on the rec board, and at the last rec board meeting, it was made it clear that any request should be at the current level or below. So, thank you.
Dues and subscriptions, this is where your Greater Minnesota, Greater Cities, yes, thank you. Coalition dues of 14,000, 16, I think, with the 2,000 environmental on there. That comes out of there. Teen Center, we discussed. Cable TV, this is for Bill back here and Terry Hardika. And it's my understanding that actually this can be moved to the MEC. Are we thinking of doing that? So, who knows, maybe bigger and better things.
So can I ask?
Yes, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. Can I address that very question then? Since the MEC will have its own budget, and I really haven't looked at this portion yet, is that in there then for under cable or under,
No, they had, Cable Commission, the cable has their own separate kind of thing also.
Yep.
Because they get the franchise fees, so then it kind of goes their own way. So they would still stay under the general fund, like they are now.
so that amount, even though if it moves over to the MEC, like a physical
They could
location,
physically move the location to anywhere in the city and they'd still,
so we're still going to count it
We
that
still have to
way,
help them out. Yep.
even though there might be additional expense on that side.
I think they're gonna probably come to us in 2022 with some, once the building's built, with some things they're gonna need. There are gonna
Right,
be some
okay,
expenses that
Okay, but for 2021,
they
We're
did
just
have
gonna
not
leave it.
indicated
Okay.
they needed anything for 2021.
okay,
And
thank
I don't know,
you.
it's hard to plan for something when you haven't seen the room yet, which
Right,
you're going into.
thanks for that.
Counselor Bearable.
Yep, Britt or Sherry, on that MEC project, when they do the installation of all the high-tech stuff, we're going to be looking at going out for proposals on that, or across Anderson, is correct? How much that'll be, and then we'll have an idea, are they going to include what they will charge the city in that outlook? Okay. So it could be anybody, it may not
Oh, I
be
see
the
what
cable
you mean.
company or whoever it is that might be in there. Correct? Okay.
Counselor Johnson.
Mayor, since we are talking cable, have we heard back from MediaCom about them coming and answering some questions about services and current stuff?
Never got an email back, but I will email Pamela again
Okay.
and ask that question again.
Thanks, Britt.
Thank you. Counselor Beyondich, anything, any questions you have thus far?
No, I think I'm good this far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sherry?
Okay, moving on down to the Youth in Action, that is 500, that was a resolution, I believe. What's a resolution, for those who here, made by Counselor
Yep,
Nevada?
yep.
Little Wolf?
Yep.
But it's just automatically part of our budget. It is a bona fide donation, or what do you want to say, I checked with the auditors, so
It is a benefit.
Yes, because it relates to youth.
It's a benefit to the city, yeah.
And we're actually pay for, yeah, registration fees of residents from.
Right.
The next is VITA. There's your special levy that will go, and that comes in two parts. So those who sit on VITA, remember, we get paid in July and December. So that'll be half in July and half in December. That should go right into VITA. They have their own budget, which I can give you with the monthly finance too. And then we no longer have the EE VITA loan or the appropriation needed. But we do have a portion of taxes, 8,000 property tax. So it really comes back to us. Lakes Trails Fund, 20,000 out of the general fund, gets set aside every year. That was also made by Counselor Cipolla. And I think we're doing a good job. The miscellaneous contingency fund, banners, 10,000, and playground trails, 25,000. So we did a portion of the contingency fund, 122 just for operating, additional 25 for the trails, and then out of that, out of the operating, we want to do some more banners. I think they really spruces up downtown, the flowers, I love the flowers.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Quickly. So we have this fund for Lakes and Trails of $20,000, or the banners and things. So are we looking at potentially, where would money come from if we would decide through staff's recommendation, when you're redoing the Wayfair signage all around the town, to redirect people to certain areas? Is that part of of what you might be considering in 2021? And if that's the case, where would that come out of this area?
It's around the lake, it'd come out of the Lakes Fund. If it's just on the streets, it'd come out of the banners.
Okay, thank you, Britt. Thank you, Sherry.
Economic development, we still put in $5,000 for a dog park. I think that's a neat thing. I think it's a good thing. And then we want to allocate 50,000 to VITA, and maybe you can,
Next year's round, it's like the downtown phase 2.
out of economic development in the general fund. So,
Very good.
Remaining 50,000 is just in there for things that may come up, such as the panel, those kind of things where we have to expend some funds related to a lot or.
get an opportunity to
Yeah, this
purchase.
is a just-in-case allocation, hopefully. Yes, thank you.
So, and then there is a transfer out that we will have to pay the bond for both bonds, A and B, but we already have budgeted, and then the majority of that will come out of the sales tax collected. That is it for the general fund. And moving on to the expenses of the
Mr. Mayor.
enterprise.
I'm sorry. Yes, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. So if the sales tax revenue comes in more than the 1.7 million, that stays in a special fund to pay later. We can't pay ahead of time yet because of their bonds. Is that my understanding of how that works? So if we get extra money, we leave it there. So if there's a year where we're a little short with income or sales tax revenue, the money would go, and then eventually that money will be used for upkeep and regular miners proper stuff.
Said it better.
Yes.
Yes. After the 20 years, if there's any funds left, that the legislature did allocate that we get to use the funds for maintenance and upkeep if there is funds left after that 20 years in that pot.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Councilor Bearable.
Sherry, I don't see, unless I'm missing it, unless it's in another venue in here, we've been Paying into the OPEB liability fund, where is that in this budget? I see miscellaneous OPEB investment account, but I don't see any dollars with it. Is it in another portion?
We do, if you look at the retirees insurance,
That
on the
is-
second page
That included in there then?
is we're paying as we go.
Okay,
We're paying as we go, and in addition, there is a resolution that says 3% of the sewer fees collected
yeah,
gets reinvested into our OPEB with Para, who administers it every year, $500 for the administrative fee.
so we just
But
don't.
that's very healthy right now,
Yeah.
despite all the stuff going on.
just
It's
don't
close to
have-
2 million.
yeah, We just don't have it separated out anyplace then, it's all inclusive.
Yeah, it's more, because it comes out of the enterprise.
Okay, that's
funds
fine then, okay. I just
than
didn't
part
want
of the
us,
expense.
I didn't want us not to be doing that in the
That's,
future.
yeah, that's part of our investments, and actually, we've gotten good remarks because we are not only paying as we go, but we're also investing.
Thank you. Sherry?
Okay, the third page is your enterprise funds and special fund, which includes Tennis for All, and roughly where we feel they will land, budget. So hopefully, we will have a break even with the ambulance fund this year. I'm excited about this Mountain Iron agreement. I think it definitely will help. All around. I do think it'll help. The Washington Manor, gonna sit okay. I know that she had some improvements that she wanted done, so she'll probably be bringing them back to the council, and hopefully, next year we have enough in there. The solid waste will still end with a positive 128,000. And as you see, I budgeted a deficit for the golf course of $127,450 for next year. But, I really hope I can revise that. And maybe get together with Fingeros and say, hey, do you think we can have another year like this?
Well, I just want to say quickly, not to belabor the point, but to move this process along, but looking at the other budgets from the other cities for the other mayors and what their city-owned golf course is, us being an 18-hole course, theirs being a 9-hole course, we're in really good shape by comparison, so that's encouraging to know.
And then at the restaurant, I only budgeted $4,700 in a deficit, and hopefully, and that's, COVID, there's a lot of hindrance there. Hopefully that'll turn around.
Okay, thank you.
And then, as you can see, the sewer and water and the clinic are healthy. They'll end with $295,000, and then the clinic is a little over $500,000. So, the positive things about COVID, say there's that politically correct, is that,
Ka-ching.
yeah, seriously, we'll get 2 ambulances hopefully this year out of it, as it's not budgeted for next year. We cut all the capital. We're going to be getting some much-needed equipment in the fire and the ambulance. So that's why I think what we bring to the table with the Mountain Iron, it's just a good thing.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor Paulson.
I do actually have one question regarding the CARES grant, the COVID dollars that we did receive for fiscal year 2020. Does that balance then carry over if there is into 2021?
Oh, we have to use it or
We have
lose
to
it.
show
There's a
all our
spend down.
expenditures by November 30th. and if
Use
we-
it or lose it.
Yep. If we
Use
don't
it or
have-
lose it? Okay, thank you.
Sherry kind of preluded that Chief's coming to you at the next meeting for another ambulance. We have a balance of about 400,000. I met with Wendy yesterday, of 400,000 left in the CARES Act that we have to spend by November 15th. November 30th is the absolute drop dead deadline.
Your wish list then.
I've kind of told every department that if you can imagine it for COVID, let's do it. So Pam for elections she's going to get some more barricades or dividers. So the staff has been great thinking of different ways to do things. Brian's getting a fence quote to modify one of the softball fields into Little League because we are going to have an issue in May when Little League's trying to play and softball and high school are both kind of everybody's trying to play at one time and football's going on.
Yeah, no,
It's going to be kind of
I didn't think of that, yeah.
a mess this spring, all COVID related.
So then, will all departments then submit those requests, and then we'll be able to kind of see what
They're
is
all
up
coming
and
to you.
coming?
Yep. From March through August 1st, we had spent with staff, with the furlough staff and everything, $135,000.
We're
Yeah,
doing
we
pretty
need
good.
that.
Yep, and we have not got the unemployment numbers yet. We had a conference call with the league last week, and the league said that they have talked to the Department of Labor and reemphasized to them that cities are holding back COVID money because they don't know the unemployment dollars. You have to tell them, they only have till November. You got to give them a heads up. We need to know if we're spending money or if we're saving money for that. And
hurry
Department of
up
Labor
and
says,
wait.
yes, we understand. We'll get you those numbers soon. We haven't
Thanks for
gotten them yet.
explaining that, because I didn't realize it was,
We just had this
You had to
discussion
spend it
yesterday with
down.
the finance staff, just about how are we going to do?
Yeah.
Time's ticking. What are we going to do here?
gotta
And-
do it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you.
And just one quick thing, I hope the police department comes out with an innovative needs of a particular equipment with respect to mental health and all those kind of things moving forward. So I'm hoping that they're going to come through with some of those innovative opportunities to, deal with those the public in other areas using other equipment which to do so. Thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Mayor. And will some of that be used for like this room, or for potentially helping staff be, we have a room downstairs where there's 3 staff in it. Is there a way of looking at, can we use some of that COVID money to maybe repurpose other offices so that the exposure risk is lower for staff who are working within the building? Is that some of those things that are, because I think that, we're sitting here between desks and you're over there, and it's not really conducive for the two of you to be sitting at movable tables. It'd be nice if you had a more permanent station in this room and we could facilitate social distancing, because I don't anticipate there's going to be a day where they just go, oh, never mind, it's all good. I think this is our new, we should prepare, because it'll be easier to go backwards once we make the changes than to continue putting off changes, and here we are, there's almost a dozen benches in here, and maybe removing every other one and surplusing the benches out so that they can go somewhere else, or, those kinds of things. Or maybe chairs is a more realistic way of having this room utilized instead of wooden benches. So I appreciate if that's already in the thought process. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilor Bearable?
Yeah, Britt or Sherry, probably you, Britt, the dollar figure that you gave on employee expenses during the COVID,
That was total expenses. That was everything, including employees, help when we were trying to get supplies. the
okay, does
ambulance,
that include the furlough expenses that we had to in that? I don't believe.
Except for unemployment.
Yeah, but we must have spent a lot more than that because we kept the health insurances. Is that an eligible thing or not?
Yes, and that is included in that number. It was $11,000 for
That
the health
seems-
insurance.
That seems low to me for the number
We,
that we're. Yeah, go ahead, Sherry.
we only furloughed for what, 4 weeks?
We had, what, 14 people?
14
Okay.
people.
That
Yeah,
answers
so
that then.
roughly 30,000.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the budget, Sherry?
No, I'm open for questions, and like I said, I'll get those finances to you, the financials regarding VITA.
Okay, before we go to the next item on the agenda, does any counselor have any other further questions or we need some clarifications regarding the budget? Counselor Bearable?
Since this is a special meeting and this is the proposal for the budget, we can make a motion on this, can we not? You don't have them ready yet?
Can we
Okay.
waive? Waive, and then so I can, I just have to get it in by the 30th, that's all.
Well, yeah, and we've got one more meeting, and I may or may not be at that meeting, depending on what that surgical procedure does. I don't have a problem waiving the resolutions on that because I think we need to, before I make anything, I believe your preliminary budget from everything you've gone through today, Sherry and Britt, is in good order. We can always go backwards and go down. But right now, I think we need to approve this by the 30th. And you need 5 votes, correct?
Yeah, well, when Counselor Bearaboo's through, I'll move to her. You're done? Okay. All right, okay. All right, thank you, Counselor Bearaboo. Counselor Beyondich.
Thank you. And all the
You'll have to start from the beginning again. We got a little break up there. Thank you.
okay, thank you to the staff.
Thank you.
My comment is, when I looked at the budget the first time for that meeting, my concern was the miscellaneous columns and what was in them. And so when we come to our council meetings, a couple of things that would help clarify things for me. Number one, is it grant related? To approve, travel and spending money. It really helps for me to know that if it's covered by a grant, that's a whole different thing. And just to have more clarity when it comes to looking at that budget. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Counselor, Beyondich and counselors, yes, I agree with you. We can, especially on the bill run, we should be able to put, grant or COVID, so then you have an idea that this is covered by, excuse me, or
Fire related.
even fire or whatever, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, Mayor had to step away for a minute. Steve?
Thank you. I don't know if, we had ended up having a discussion last week, but, and I didn't see a whole lot, in the specifics, there's miscellaneous, and I want to talk about that as we move the budget forward. I'm just going to speak from my point of view as someone who answered to a board of directors when I ran a nonprofit. When we had consultants come in for QuickBook and accounting, they literally said never use miscellaneous. The only time you would use a miscellaneous is if it was a single, one-time, never ever again to be used expense. Because if you have it twice, then it should be line itemed. So I guess I would like to see, as we're looking at the minute that we really work on, and I don't know if, I'll leave it up to the finance staff, that miscellaneous isn't an option, that we really work hard on making sure it's going into specific budgets. One of the things that I had to do is I broke out my lawn mowing and my, I know we have ice removal because they're two different, but I did that for my purposes so I could budget the money when I needed it. Instead of putting lawn mowing, $3,000 for the year, I could do $1,000 in June, $1,000 in